No one was ready that morning when the sun rose, and a centuries-old kingdom vanished as if swallowed by the sky. There were no screams, no war, just a silence so perfect it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. This is the story of the Khmer Empire, a story even historians fear to finish. In the 15th century, Angkor was more than just a city. It was a colossal stone monster, home to nearly 1 million people. At a time when other cities in the world had not even dreamed of such magnitude. Moats surrounded the temples, like dragons guarding treasure. Stone pillars towered like the fingers of a god holding up the sky. But one day, it all collapsed. Silently. The first person to notice was a merchant arriving by boat along the Siem Reap River. He expected to hear the bustle of a market, the beating of drums, or the shouts of soldiers. But when he stepped onto a stone platform, he heard only wind, no people, no livestock, no kitchen smoke, just a piercing silence. The merchant fled, and rumors began to spread. The Khmer vanished overnight. The gods are angry. Something is walking in the jungle, eating people. Centuries later, a young explorer named Ravia decided to seek answers. He brought with him notes, a compass, and a foolish belief that he could discover something millions had failed to grasp. As he entered the Angkor Wat complex, he felt something strange. The air seemed to hold its breath. The forest growing among the stones felt alive as if watching his every step. On the temple walls, he discovered reliefs carved with eerie detail. Fearful human faces, outstretched hands, and large, formless creatures hovering like shadows. "This isn't Khmer carving," he muttered. Ravia continued to the deepest part of the temple, a small chamber with a nearly decayed stone door. As he lit a torch and stepped inside, he encountered something that made him freeze. The floor of the chamber was lined with stone circles with spiral patterns that spiraled toward the center. At the center of the spiral was some kind of inscription, written in an ancient script that even historians rarely touch. Trembling, Ravia brushed off the dust and read the translation she could understand. "We are not defeated. We are not fleeing. We are being absorbed." Her heart skipped a beat. What did it mean? Suddenly, her torch trembled. The air dropped sharply, like night had fallen suddenly. From the darkness of the hallway, Ravia heard something, not a human voice, not an animal. It was like the whispers of thousands of people speaking at once. Ravia backed away. The whispers drew closer, sounding like ancient Khmer, yet strangely, not quite the voice of a living creature. She turned and ran out, her breath choked by the fear that crept into her bones. But by the time she reached the outside of the temple, the sun was already setting faster than it should have. The forest felt darker, denser, more haunting. As she glanced back at the temple door, she saw a shadow stretching from within. The shadow didn't take on a human form. It moved like an animate mist, dancing, stretching, then contracting again. Ravia swallowed. "So, this is what happened to you." The shadow seemed to hear. It writhed slowly, then formed a humanoid silhouette, thousands of people huddled together, one. Ravia stepped back, but her foot hit a tree root. She lost her balance and fell. In the split second before the shadow approached, she saw the blurry faces within it. Khmer faces. Peasants. Soldiers. Children. Their mouths opened as if trying to scream. But the only sound that came out was the whistling of the wind. Ravia closed her eyes and whispered, "You didn't disappear. You were trapped." When she opened her eyes, the shadow was right in front of her hand. Suddenly, silence. It was completely silent. Ravia was no longer on the temple floor. She stood in a bustling marketplace, with the sounds of laughter, vendors, the aroma of food. Angkor had come to life, but not because everything before her eyes was translucent. Ravia's body grew increasingly fragile. Fragments of her light lifted by the wind like memories plucked from the real world. But before everything was gone, the translucent marketplace trembled. The voices of 1,000 whispers returned, but now they sounded like pleas. The dim faces stared at Ravia, not to frighten her, but as if begging her to do something. In the final seconds before her body vanished completely, Ravia saw it. A giant stone door that had never been there before, standing in the middle of the marketplace. The door was slightly open, emitting a golden yellow light. From within, a soft voice came, "Free us." Then, the last pieces of Ravia's body turned to dust and were absorbed into the door. The market disappeared. The shadows vanished. Everything returned to the jungle of 21st century Angkor. But now, on the temple wall, right next to the ancient relief, a new carving appeared. A young explorer. Her face exactly like Ravia's. And the carving moved slightly, as if trying to escape. Angkor Wat never lost its kingdom. It simply awaited its next soul.